Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Port Moody if you're visiting us from outside. And if you don't know who I am, I'm the mayor of Port Moody, so you're in my house here. Welcome, and I wanted to just very briefly introduce our MP and Minister of Industry, who has an announcement for us this morning, Mr. James Moore.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much for being here this morning, and thank you as well for your patience. Thank you, Mayor Clay, and staff here at the library and City Hall at the Galleria, I guess as we call it as well, for hosting us here this morning. I very much appreciate, in every single election campaign in the Tri-Cities, I think it's fair to say, that even my political opponents, no matter the political party, would say that there's actually a common interest in the Tri-Cities that has expressed itself to me in every single election campaign, which is constituents consistently tell me that their most important issue is the economy and making life affordable here in the Tri-Cities. The fact is, for those of us who live here, we know that the cost of living in the Tri-Cities and the Lower Mainland has only gone up and up. The cost of housing has gone up. Taxes have gone up. The cost of driving, car insurance, fuel, everything seems to be going up, and that families need a break. Well, we're in a position now with the Government of Canada, having gone through the worst recession since the Second World War, to be in a position now of fiscal and economic strength, that we're actually in a position now, uniquely among all G7 countries, to be in a position to have a balanced budget this year. So the question then comes to the government is, what do you do with a balanced budget? How do you move forward? What's the best policy proposal moving forward? Well, for us, and for me, and I think for Tri-City residents, the answer to that question is give the money back. Make life more affordable for Canadian families. Make life easier for Canadian families, because the cost of everything, as I said, is going up. From gas to groceries to hydro, everything seems to be going up. And that's why up until now, we have reduced taxes consistently as a government in every single one of our budgets. We've reduced taxes in every way in which the federal government collects taxes. Of course, we've cut the GST by 2 points. We've increased the personal exemption for people when you pay taxes to begin with, taking tens of thousands of low-income Canadians and seniors off the tax rolls altogether. And today, the overall tax burden on Canadians is at its lowest point that it has been in 55 years. And this unprecedented achievement has only been achieved because our government has made tough decisions, made responsible decisions, gotten this country's fiscal house in order, and made this tax relief possible for Canadian families. And in fact, when you take all of the tax relief measures that our government has put together, the average Canadian family today has $3,400 more in their pockets than they would have otherwise had if we hadn't taken these measures. So the question then is, what do we do next? Well, Prime Minister Harper yesterday made an announcement that I wanted to come home here in Port Moody to talk a little bit about, which is the next step, which is 5 specific policies to put more money in the pockets of Canadian families. First, we are increasing the universal child care benefit for children under the age of 6. Parents will receive a benefit of up to $160 per month for every child under the age of 6. It's $100 now. We're increasing it from $100 up to $160 every single month as of January 1st, 2015. In a single year, every family, for every child, will receive almost $2,000 per year because of this measure. Second, we're expanding that universal child care benefit to children aged 6 through 17. And under this expanded benefit, families will receive $60 every month for every child aged 6 through 17. So in a single year, a parent per child will receive $720 per child. Again, our political opponents in the past and present dream up massive schemes about daycare for all families at all time. They try to copy the Quebec model, which by the way is incredibly expensive and unaffordable within Quebec, and will be even more expensive and more impossible all across this country. But what we're proposing here is $2,000, almost $2,000 every single year in cash in the pockets of Canadian families for every child when they're born through to the age of 6, and then $720 in the pockets of every family for every child aged 6 through 17. The third thing we are doing is we're introducing the family tax credit. This is income splitting. This is a federal non-refundable tax credit that will allow spouses to, in effect, transfer up to $50,000 of their taxable income to a spouse who might be in a lower tax bracket. This tax credit will provide tax relief capped at $2,000 for couples with minor children that will be effective for the 2014 tax year. Income splitting has helped seniors all across this country for years, which is why our government is now extending this tax relief measure beyond seniors and to everyday families. So the universal child care benefit goes from $100 a month to $160 a month. We're extending it for children aged 6 to $17 to $60 per month. And on top of that, we're having income splitting, transferring $50,000 of income to a spouse, providing $2,000 in tax relief for every single family in this country. The fourth thing that we're doing is we're increasing the child care expense deduction limit by $1,000 effective for the 2015 tax year. So if you're a parent and you do rely on daycare, that tax credit that you get, we're increasing it by $1,000 in every tax bracket for every family in this country. $1,000 more in the pockets of everyday families. The maximum amounts that can be claimed right now would increase to $8,000 from $7,000 for children under the age of 7, to $5,000 from $4,000 for children aged 7 through 16, and to $11,000 from $10,000 for children who are eligible for the disability tax credit. We all know families and friends who have children who often have challenges, and those families deserve a special tax break as well, and we're providing that tax break in this package. And last but certainly not least, earlier this month, the Prime Minister announced that our government's intention to double the children's fitness tax credit and to make it refundable. And by the way, this is an idea, and we in the Tri-Cities should be very proud of this. Mayor Clay knows this in Port Moody. This was an idea that came from Port Moody. There was a Port Moody mom at the swim club here in Port Moody who said, you know what about this idea of having the cost of registering your kids in amateur sport? Why don't we make this tax deductible? Why don't we make this easier for families? Because we want to encourage kids to be physically active. We want to support our local sports organizations. So why don't we take this idea and get the politicians to listen to us? When she raised the issue here in Port Moody, she went to Christy Clark, who was then the MLA in the Tri-Cities, and she tried to raise it with the provincial government and encouraged then Premier Gordon Campbell to tell Ottawa to do something about it. We formed government and we did something about it. And now the cost of $500 every year of putting your children into amateur sports is now tax deductible. So if you want to register your kids into hockey or soccer or swimming, that cost is now tax deductible. Up to $500. And we have doubled that now to $1,000, a $1,000 tax credit that will be in place in next year's tax year. These enhanced tax policies will all, on average, put $1,140 back into the pockets of families with children. Low and middle income families will receive 2/3 of the overall benefits of this entire package, and indeed Canadians of income levels across the board will benefit from the tax relief measures that we're announcing today. Now, I would like to go into some more details on that, but I know that the media have some questions, and I'll leave some of the more detailed analysis of our tax policy for a handout that we're going to put together. But I just wanted to come here. I flew back from Ottawa last night, and I think it's always important when you're in Ottawa for a while to come back to your community and to come back to a place like Port Moody, where we feel, I think, acutely here in the Tri-Cities, the pressures of the increased cost of life almost more than anybody else. We see the rising cost of everything, as I said. Taxes are going up, hydro is going up, car insurance is going up, everything seems to be going up. And when the government can balance its budget and is in a position to have a surplus, and we're the only country in the G7 to actually have a surplus, in my view, the best thing that the government can do is to recognize that a surplus isn't something to celebrate. A surplus is overtaxation. And when you're overtaxing the public, you should give it back to the public so that families have more choices in how they choose to raise their kids, to love their kids, to raise their home, and to take care of their responsibilities. So I'm pleased to be back here. Thank you, Mike Clay, for opening the door to us. Again, taken together, all of these measures from when we were first elected back in 2006 through until the budget of next year when all of these items will be realized. The average Canadian family will have almost $5,000 in cash in their pocket that they otherwise would not have had. That's because of good economic management, good fiscal management of this country, a growing economy, and a recognition that we as politicians should spend more time thinking about how to create wealth for taxpayers rather than just constantly talking about spending the wealth of taxpayers. And I think today's announcement and the suite of policies recognizes that balance of making life more affordable for Port Moody and Tri-Cities families, more affordable for Canadian families, and returning surplus dollars back where they belong, which is into the pockets of Canadian families. Thanks very much for your time, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be pleased to entertain them. So thank you very much.